Well, today we're going to take a look at the Gerber Flatiron Generation 1 versus their update Generation 2. We're going to look at aluminum versus G10 handle scales and see how Gerber's 7CR17 MOV steel holds its edge compared to Kershaw's 8CR14 MOV steel. So stay tuned because we got a lot to get to. Well, thanks for joining us today, folks. I really think that this is going to be a fun, informative video. I myself even learned some cool data points for future reference for myself. And that's the first thing we're going to jump into right away is edge retention tests. Now, this isn't scientific. I'm not in some sort of lab, doing thousands and thousands of cutting tests. I'm going to do a simple hemp rope cutting test, though, with the 8CR14 MOV high hollow grind Kershaw Emerson CQC 11. I've had this knife for quite a while. It's a decent, 8CR steel, holds a decent edge, very easy to resharpen, and has that very high hollow grind. That's why I picked it to go up against this very high hollow grind version of the Flatiron. This thing has a very high hollow grind, like you would see on a razor blade a lot of the time, and has 7CR17 MOV steel. I've heard people complain about the softness of this steel. 8CR is also a very soft steel. What we're going to do right now is cut away and do a real fast rope cutting test and see which one will be able to hold its edge a little bit longer. Okay, 111. I'm going to say 111 for the Gerber 7CR. So surprising that this can go over 100 with the 7CR17 MOV steel. Now let's see how the Kershaw holds up. All right, I'm gonna say 96. I'm gonna say 96 on this. So shockingly, the 7CR17 MOV, at least on this particular test, held a better edge for a little bit longer, close, but a little bit longer than 8CR14 MOV from Kershaw. Well, there you have it, folks. I'm rather surprised with the results that the Gerber can outcut and hold its edge a little bit longer than the Kershaw. I thought the Kershaw would be able to outbeat it. Now, these do have factory edges just with my ceramic rod tuning up. That's it. I did not reprofile these. They don't have some special grind on them. I just took factory edges, run them on some ceramic rods real quick once I had tested them out in other ways and used it that way so that there's no specialty grind attached to either of these. And so that's something, again, it's just a basic data point. I don't have, all these different angles and different things like that. And you may have experienced different results with these steels, and that may be because of the grinds. Different grinds produce different results in edge retention tests as well as edge geometries and all that. So I just wanted to go up against a basic high hollow grind with the Kershaw and a basic high hollow grind with the Gerber and see what these had to offer. And surprisingly, they're about the same, if not Gerber outperforming by a couple strokes. So pretty cool and good data point. Now, with that said, again, this is a very budget-friendly steel, so it's going to be very easy to resharpen and get a wicked edge on, but it's going to dull pretty quick, so you're just going to have to be really good with your sharpening. And I would prefer to have seen better edges, better steels, not only on the Gerber and what they had chosen, either AUS 8 or even AUS 10 maybe, and we're seeing some blades starting to come out with that, or just a higher grade, maybe 440C, 420 high carbon and make it all USA made, something like that would have been nice to see. But for the price that you're going to be paying that we'll talk about a little later and the design, it's actually doing better than I expected. Okay, so now that we've done the edge retention test, I want to show you the two things that they have updated since it was originally released. Now, our lower one here is the original one that was released. in early 2018. It has the aluminum handle scale, and then the new updated version is the tan G10 handle scale one. And you can probably, if you're an astute knife lover like myself, you can probably already pick up on the two things that they've updated. So, and I have to give Gerber credit that in the same year of release, they have heard feedback from the customer and have tweaked the design, and I believe both tweaks are better and do help the overall deployment of the knife, and that's really what the issues were. So in this original design here, you can see that they have a really nice over travel disc right there, which is great. That's very impressive. The Kershaw does not have that. The pocket clip could kind of act that way, but it doesn't have an over travel disc to offer. Second thing is the eye slit. Now, what I found was that I don't have a problem with frame locks. Some people do, like my brother. I hand him almost all frame locks, and he has a hard time deploying it. He tends to put too much pressure on the frame lock, and then while you're trying to open it, the detent is putting pressure on the blade, and then you can't open it. I've never had an issue with that. Some people have more issues than others. Again, my brother seems to have some sort of issue with that. So even he had an issue with this original Gerber, with this disc, not really giving any place to rest his finger. He was putting pressure on the frame lock and then keeping the blade from being opened. And then I tended to have a problem with how small this eye hole was right here. I would often try to deploy the blade and my finger would just pop right out of the little slit, and it would take me 2-3 times to try and deploy this original design here. And so they heard that from the consumer and have in less than a year tweaked those two designs. You can obviously see here now they have a huge over travel plate that they have installed, which gives you a place to rest your finger. They even put a little lip here, which is really nice. So you can rest your finger right there, and now there's no possibility of you putting pressure on the frame lock and keeping the retention on the blade and then having difficulty opening the blade. So that's a really good option. I really like that, and I think other knife companies should see this and start doing that more and more if they're hearing their customers complaining about problems opening. I think somebody called it like a death lock or something like that, like you put pressure on it and people just have a hard time opening it. The second thing is you can see here that the eye slit has been elongated about almost, not quite double, but significantly. They have made it quite a bit longer, which I have found makes it much easier for me to deploy the blade. I can usually hit it the first time out the gate. I'm not slipping out of the hole because they have elongated it, kind of made it a little sharper in there to catch your thumb a little easier, and that's what I have found. So those are the two other updates, or two things that they have updated since this was originally released. And if the old stock hasn't been removed, it should be being removed and swapped out with this new stock with the extended over travel bar plate and the elongated eye hole. And just another point of reference when you're looking at photos, in the original design the Gerber logo was in the front right here. In the new design, the Gerber logo is behind the eye hole. So they have extended it, just making it easier. So we'll move actually right into deployment, because one thing that I noticed right out of the gate that was really surprising is the fact that this comes on bronze phosphorus washers. Very nice to see there. And it's a very nice, smooth deployment. Again, now with this over travel bar right here, where I can rest my finger without giving any sort of issue. The hole has been moved and elongated, so now I can easily engage that thing and it flies open. Just almost as nice as any Rat Model 1 or other bronze phosphorus budget-friendly knives that we would know out there. So the deployment is very nice and smooth, has a very large stop pin back here, which is really nice to see. So it's going to hit that, and the frame lock is very large, thick, and does exactly what it's supposed to do, giving us really good purchase. About 50 to 60% of the blade is in there. Zero wobble, left, right, up and down, and still gives you some jimping right here on the side and enough past the lip that I can engage and close the blade, and has a very good solid detent as well. It's not wanting to flick out unless I really whip it, but I still can whip it. Whip it good, which is also a lot of fun, but it does have a good solid detent, and I think it even has the detent ball, in there in the frame. So very nice to see. And the centering on the new version, and I've been playing with it a ton to make sure the deployment was easy and fun and I wouldn't miss it, is dead center, and have not seen it float right or to the left. The original model that I had that also came with the bronze bushings and everything else was just slightly off to the right, not a ton, and didn't float. It just came that way out of the box. You probably can't even see it, maybe just a hair there on frame, to float one way or the other. So it hasn't floated, but it was just cockeyed a little bit. But again, it's a Chinese made knife, it's under the price point that we'll hit here in just a moment. is definitely the deployment now with the new updated version, and the lockup and everything is very, very good for a frame lock. Okay, so we'll go ahead and talk about the actual blade. I mean, that's a big part of this knife. Now that we've hit the edge retention, we've hit the updates, how does the blade actually perform? What would you really use it for? It's definitely different and unique than, say, this Kershaw up here. Now, the basic specs are from handle to tip 3.5 inches, actual cutting edge with that finger choil of 3 inches, maximum thickness on the back side, and it doesn't really taper down. It's going to be this all the way through. It's going to be 0.15, so it's rather thick, but it has an insane hollow grind, very, very high, good hollow grind there. I have zero complaints with it, with the way the blade is designed. And then from edge to the back of the spine is going to be 1.125 inches high, so pretty good wide width there for you as well to work with. And so what I've found, both using this outdoors, and it was actually fun taking this on, it should be dropping the same day, our winter GT cookout. Check out that video, that was a ton of fun. I used this knife for some food prep, as well as some carving of a cook stick, you know, to cook food over the fire and things like that. What I have found is that the very high hollow grind and the way that they have designed this, though really no belly and it is like a cleaver, can slice pretty well. Particularly, you know, when you're just wanting to remove, you know, wood from a stick, either for feather sticking. If you wanted to do that, you could. It wouldn't be my first choice, but you could do it. You know, making a spear to cook food over a fire, you know, that type of thing, or definitely any kind of food prep, it'll be great. I mean, a lot of your kitchenware and kitchen knives don't really have any sort of belly, and cleavers in particular, and it will do fantastic with a lot of food prep. And then in backyard tasks as well, regardless if you're going through, you know, man-made material, foam and rubber and plastics, the way the grind is, and because it's so thin, you would have seen that earlier when we did the centering portion of it. I mean, this is a thin blade, so it's razor sharp. I mean, it's almost like a straight razor and a cleaver format, and so it'll slice like crazy through things a lot easier than you may expect. Now, obviously, the trade-off with cleaver, or with a hollow grind, and particularly a thin hollow grind like this, is it's not super strong. So it has a tendency to possibly roll on you because of the type of steel. It won't chip. It would be more prone to rolling, which is again good for resharpening, but it's going to do that even more so than, say, like a saber grind or even a full flat grind. So things to consider there, but I mean, it is a wicked slicer. Now, the way it's designed, really, if you're doing most tasks, you're going to want to use the choil. It's just go to the choil right away, unless you're doing very large, just quick slashing with this. You wouldn't really want to use this outside of using it with the designated choil in that regard. So the choil does work great, fits my hand really well, and does give me a lot of control over the knife, and that's how I tend to just naturally want to grip it when I am doing cutting tasks. It just feels more balanced that way, and I feel more in control. Now, obviously, the downside, even though there is a slight sweep to the tip, so you can pierce packaging. That was one thing I wanted to test out. Could I open packaging on a regular basis with this? You can, because of that particular angle. It's a little awkward because of, you know, it's not like a normal tip of a knife. There is no belly, and there is no real actual tip for any sort of piercing of any kind or anything like that. So as a general rule, I would say that this is absolutely a fun knife. It's a blast. I mean, you bust this thing out and everyone goes, whoa, check that thing out. I want to see that. I want to play with that. It's a good kind of novelty, like, check this thing out. Whoa, sweet. And possibly is a good pocket knife or folding knife to have in the kitchen or in the campground backpacking cook set. If you're wanting a folding knife like this, for cooking and camping and food prep, then absolutely. It absolutely has that fun factor, wow factor, a little bit different. Is it very practical? No, not really. And I would go with more, this would not be my first choice with utility in mind and utility tasks. So let's take a brief time out to talk about price here, and it's really going to depend on which type of handle scale you decide to go with. The G10 model tends to be a little bit more expensive by about $5. The aluminum handle tends to be a little bit cheaper. The aluminum usually floats right around like $31 to $32. The G10 usually floats around $36 to $37. So both of these will come in at under $40. And for everything that we're getting, Chinese made steel with surprising edge retention from what I've done and seen, and all of the fit and finish, you know, bronze bushings, all that. The fit and finish seems to be doing pretty well, and, you know, it's holding up. So compared to what other offerings there are, including the Kershaw that we've been looking at today, I mean, this guy's gonna run you about $30 to $35, so right in that price point, and very similar in all that it offers you, and even has skimped on a few things. It doesn't have an over travel bar. The pocket clip kind of helps with that. It has, you know, the nylon bushings, not the bronze bushings. So, you know, there are arguments to be made that the Gerbers are even slightly better built. So for that under $40 price point, I think it's a great option in the value, you know, what you're paying for. So we'll offer you guys links in the description below over to Amazon, Blade HQ. We really appreciate it when you guys use those hyperlinks. Helps me get out here, buy gear just like this to give you guys this type of informative video. And also don't forget about our backcountry.com links, as well as our knockaround sunglass links for the entire family. Sunglasses for the entire family, they totally rock. So we really appreciate when you guys use those hyperlinks. Okay, so we'll hit pocket clips real fast because it plays into which handle scale you should decide to go with, because there is a handle scale version that I think you should go with and one you should stay away from. Now the pocket clip kind of matches the cleaver look. It's wide, it's squared off, very much like the cleaver end. So it kind of matches, that's cool, it says Gerber on it, but it's not super obnoxious, you know, like Gerber, you know, like printed all over the place or whatever. And it's wide and gives you good retention. So it's a very strong retention. I hiked in our winter cookout video that also went live today. I hiked with this in my pocket because I was going to test out with some of the wood carving as well as camp tasks, and it stayed in there no problem. The retention is very, very tight. Now you could run paracord through this little hole back here and possibly get a lanyard going, but there is no other lanyard hole. It's not designed for for lefties, as you can see there. So sorry lefties, you're out of luck. Now that plays into the heavy retention of the pocket clip, which is nice, so you won't lose it in your pocket, but the aluminum handle scale here is very slick and makes it very difficult to pull it out of your pocket. You really have to grab it. You kind of fight with it. It pulls your pants up as you pull, and it's kind of a nuisance. I would suggest going with the G10 handle version. The G10 handle version has medium texture G10. It will give you much better traction to grab and then pull it out of your pocket without as much effort. So I would not buy the aluminum handle scale version. That is my opinion. I'm not really impressed with how slick this aluminum handle version is, and the G10 will definitely help with that. Now, to give you some basic specs on the G10 model here, and I'm going to read you off of the specs off the G10 model for the weight and different things like that. It's going to weigh in the knife itself at 5.41 ounces, so it's definitely almost, you know, 5.5 ounces. So it's beefy, it's heavy. You're going to know it's in your pocket, but the positive is that it is rather slim at 0.43, so it kind of hides away in your pocket there, which is a positive. The handle length is 4.875 inches overall, so it's going to give me a very good purchase in my large size hands, as you guys know. Fits my hand really well, and then again, if I grab that choil, I feel very in control, feels very good. And again, that G10 is going to give me good traction, particularly if I'm going to be using it around the kitchen a lot with a lot of wet things, water, blood, you know, juices, you know, that type of thing. This will give me better traction than the aluminum will as well. Well, folks, to bring it to a close, obviously make sure you go with the new generation with the plate over travel bar and the enlarged slit for deployment if you are going to go with the Flatiron. And there are a lot of cool aspects to it. It's different, it's unique, and it's hitting a decent price point. And surprisingly, you're getting actually, in some cases, better edge retention than what Kershaw and many other 8CR 13 or 14 MOV steels, at least competing, if not better, than what you're going to get from my cordage testing. Again, not scientific, just a data point for us. But if you were to ask me out of the gate for between $30 and $40, would I go with the Flatiron or would I go with, say, the CQC 11 here, then I'm going to go with the CQC 11. It actually has a tip, has a belly to slice with, and has a lot of other things going for it. The wave, a lot of other cool stuff, and it's just, in my mind, a little bit more practical for everyday use. But if you want something a little unique and a little different, then this will absolutely do a lot for you for under 40 bucks in this kind of cleaver, straight razor style. And it is fun to whip it out and have everyone go, whoa, let me take a look at that. It's interesting, it's different. Is it super practical? Not really. So I hope this video has just been informative, helped you out, make a wise decision on whether or not the Flatiron is the right tool for you when you're on a budget and you're looking for a frame lock, larger folder that's a little outside the box in its design. Thank you guys so much. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, all the social media. If you aren't a current subscriber, I invite you to become part of the GT family, throwing up videos every single week. And finally, guys, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.